Welcome to Coffee with Danny and V. I am V. This is Danny. And on this show, we talk about all things perimenopause, menopause, and midlife women-centered related topics.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. And today we're going to talk about hot flashes. What they are, what's happening in your body to cause one, what can trigger that response in your body, and how you can mitigate them, stop them, and really take control again of your body's response so that you don't have as many or any hot flashes. So I actually want to kick it off a little bit by talking about the statistics around a hot flash.
Okay.
Right? And why we think of hot flashes when we think menopause. Because I think when you say menopause, women automatically go, hot flashes, right? That's the one thing we know.
And if they haven't experienced a hot flash, then they say that they are not in it or are not experiencing menopause, when really you could be having your estrogen decline and experiencing other symptoms, because every woman's journey is not the same.
That's right. But I think what happens is we have this like social perspective on menopause, if we have a social perspective on menopause at all. But if we do, we think, oh, it's a thing that's going to happen when I'm in my 50s, 60s, and my period's going to stop and I might have some hot flashes, right? That's the kind of general concept we have in the United States about menopause. Totally not the correct perception, but that's what's out there. And I think we think that hot flashes are the symptom we should expect because it's a symptom that is so obvious when you're having one and also so different from anything else that you have experienced before, right? A hot flash doesn't feel like heat beating in on you, like the sun or a warm room or the fireplace or whatever. It feels like heat radiating out of you, like you are the sun. Right?
And I think it's so disrupting too. You know, yes, it's a completely different feeling than anything you've ever felt before, but it's very disrupting, you know, and I think also, to your point, what's the statistic though?
Well, yeah, thanks. So she always brings me around. Get back to your original point. I will. Okay, so 75% of women will report hot flashes as a symptom of perimenopause and menopause. 75%. So that's pretty significant, but it is not the most reported symptom. It's actually number 5 on the list of reported symptoms once women start reporting the things that they're experiencing. It's number 5, but it's just so intrusive and so physically uncomfortable that it really seems to be the one that we latch onto. And 80% of that 75% of women will have hot flashes for 2 or more years in their perimenopause journey. And that's a pretty significant time of your life to be uncomfortable with hot flashes.
Because the other thing too is hot flashes can come once a day. They can come once a week. They can come up to 10 to 15 times a day. So
they can come at night in the form of a night sweat, which is basically just a hot flash when you're trying to sleep.
Right. So, and I think, you know, the other part of that too is we know the word hot flashes, I think, more than we know the word night sweats. But I have found that with women, I think that a lot of times for women, night sweats are more debilitating because it disrupts your sleep. So most women are awake during a hot flash and they try to figure out different ways, you know, to solve it, to deal with it, to put, you know, fans on themselves, or I've heard of women putting their feet in the refrigerator or the freezer, you know, but you're awake to be able to do that. But with a night sweat, you're disrupting your sleep. And, you know, we have a lot of women that have even talked to us about their night sweats are so bad, they soak through sheets. It disrupts their husband's sleep. You know, they've got to change out sheets in the middle of the night, which, you know, by the time you're changing out sheets, you're completely awake. I mean, so then you have the whole trying to get back to sleep. And so night sweats, I think, are really a lot more negatively affecting women's mental health.
Yeah.
Sometimes than a hot flash. But the hot flashes, I mean, if you think about it, 75% of the women. How many women a day are going in menopause today?
6,000 every single day.
6,000 every single day.
Yeah.
Which means that as of right now, we have about, 25 million women in menopause? 25 million women in menopause, and 75% of them are experiencing hot flashes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really a crucial number, and actually goes to some economic things that we can probably get into in a different episode. But let's talk about what a hot flash is, right? It's this feeling of heat, like I said before, radiating out of you. It kind of bubbles up from inside rather than coming from the outside. And it can do a lot of things. It can make your neck and your face and your arms get kind of splotchy and red. You start to sweat, and some women can sweat profusely, not just a little, glisten on your forehead. I'm talking like full on sweat. You look like you just took a shower, right? And didn't towel off. And it can come with dizziness. It can come with lightheadedness. It's not fatigue. A fun sensation, and you feel like you're completely out of control when it happens. You have no sense of being able to control this thing that's happening in your body. And I think for a lot of women, that's the kicker, is there's just doesn't seem to be anything you can do about it, right? Once you're having a hot flash, you're having a hot flash whether you want to or not. And it can last upwards of 10 minutes in extreme situations. But it can last on average about 2 minutes. And I don't care how long it lasts. It feels like it's lasting forever, right? Forever. Yeah, because you just feel completely out of control.
Yeah. Well, and there are things that we can do to help it. There's some things that we can do naturally. There's some, there's a couple of different options besides putting your feet in the freezer.
and to get to how to combat them, we really have to understand why they happen in the first place. Yeah. So we've said before that estrogen decreases when you're in your perimenopausal transition. And I saw this really interesting graph of levels of estrogen in a woman's body throughout her life. And I'm just going to sort of walk you through it real quick. So, when you are very, very young, you don't have a lot of estrogen, right? Your estrogen really starts to come into play when you're a teenager and you go through puberty, and it starts to spike up and down. And we always talk about the hormonal issues driven by puberty, right? When your estrogen is fluctuating, and other hormones are fluctuating too, but let's focus on estrogen. Your estrogen levels are up and down, up and down, up and down. You have acne and moodiness and all of that stuff. And then you get into what's called your reproductive years. So you're out of puberty, and your estrogen levels are really high, but they're leveled off. They kind of come in waves, right? And you can have things like PMS and that sort of thing, but they're really high levels, and they're sort of even keel. But then you get to be about 35, 38, 39, and your estrogen starts to do this. It looks like a roller coaster, the levels of estrogen in your body. And so there are peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys and peaks and valleys. And it's all over the place. And they can spike way higher than your top most estrogen level in your reproductive years. And they can spike much lower than that. So of course your body is having trouble. And then you get to menopause, and it's a much lower level of estrogen, but it levels off. There's some waves again. But it's not these peaks and valleys like you see in perimenopause. So that's first important to understand. Your level of estrogen is just wacky. And that's affecting a part of your brain called the hypothalamus. And your hypothalamus does a lot of stuff. But what we're focusing here now is on regulating your core body temperature. Okay? So your hypothalamus is this really important part of your brain that sort of lives toward the bottom of your brain, not on the very bottom. It's just above your pituitary gland, and it's like sandwiched in between your pituitary gland and the thalamus, right around here, but a little lower. Okay. And great visuals. And that hypothalamus does so many things, and it needs estrogen to regulate your core body temperature. And that's because you've got all of these estrogen receptors in your skin, right? And so if your estrogen receptors are not getting enough estrogen, to then send the correct signals to your hypothalamus to say, we're too hot, we're too cold, whatever it is, adjust the temperature accordingly, right? Your hypothalamus will then say, okay, anytime we are overheated, it's a direct threat to our core body temperature, and our core body temperature will rise too much, and that's detrimental to your health and even your life, right? So if you don't have this estrogen sending the right signals to your brain through your estrogen receptors to your hypothalamus will say, okay, well, we're wearing really tight clothes today. We're overheating. We must then cool us off. And the way that you get cooled off from your hypothalamus is it sends out signals to the rest of your body that say, okay, we're too warm, but we're going to combat that by getting super warm real fast so that you sweat. And then that sweat evaporates and makes your skin cooler, right? It cools your core body temperature off. So that's what's causing a hot flash. Your hypothalamus is reacting to incorrect information because it doesn't have enough estrogen. And then it's saying, okay, we've got to cool off real fast. And therefore, we must sweat, right? And that is why we get so sweaty. And that is why we just feel like we can't cool off. And that's why it feels like it's coming from the inside out, because it pretty much is, right? Yeah. Your body's going, heat up, heat up, heat up, so you can cool off, cool off, cool off. That's a hot flash.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're not fun.
They're not.
And all kinds of things, because we rely on estrogen and we're not getting enough estrogen, all kinds of things can trigger a hot flash. So all kinds of things, like caffeine.
Yep. Wine, ladies.
Oh yeah. And I love a good glass of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big one. A lot of women, when they finally realize that wine triggers a hot flash, it's pretty eye-opening.
And pretty devastating.
Yeah, right?
If it means that you have to cut out wine. And you love it.
It is.
But the other things like caffeine, spicy food, too tight clothing, a warm environment. I mean,
or even, dress appropriately for the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or your environment. So if you're going into the office and they're blasting the air conditioning or, but then you've got to go outside like here because we live in the desert. So it's freezing in the office and then you go outside and it's blistering hot, right? You've got to be ready for those weather fluctuations too, because those are things that can also trigger, going into a hot flash. But so be prepared with your wardrobe, layers.
Yeah.
We just had a guest speaker and she was talking about hot flash clothing and stuff like that. And it's layers. Layers is a big one. Loose fitting clothing can help also. Mm-hmm. Lightweight linens, things like that can help.
Anytime your any part of your body sends a signal to your hypothalamus that it's too hot, your hypothalamus reacts as though it's your whole body, right? And your whole body must cool off right away. So even if you're wearing like I have this sweater that I love that has tight cuffs at the bottom. Mm-hmm. The rest of it's billowy and loose and it's a light fabric, but it's tight right here. So I have to really consider, am I going to wear that? What might be the repercussions if I wear that sweater that's just tight right here?
Mm-hmm. You can also, we talked about like blouses and things like that, but to that point, jewelry, big cuff bracelets.
Which I love.
Right? Jewelry can do it. Pay attention to your pants, mm-hmm. and the things you're wearing down below. Pay attention to your shoes. So it can be those types of things too that are, triggering your body to feel overly warm. You don't want to be wearing wool pants or a wool blend probably in the summer, so paying attention to those kinds of things. So dress appropriately.
Yeah. Anytime you can give yourself layers and try to keep your core body temperature at an even keel as much as you can throughout the day, right? Adjusting for the AC, mm-hmm. adjusting for the heat, and really helping your hypothalamus out, the less confused it will become.
So here's even one, TMI, I know, but we're here to talk about TMI. Cotton panties. Wear your cotton panties because they're going to breathe. Versus some polyester. Yes, they're silky and fun and whatever. But sometimes, I'm sorry, but you've got to, you can find cute cotton panties.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that could be one thing too. Just, paying attention to those kinds of things because it's helping your body regulate its temperature, finding the right signals and all of that. So, yeah. There's your teeth.
So the other thing that really indicates or can cause a hot flash is what you consume, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are foods that you should not eat if you're hoping to avoid hot flashes. So we just talked about caffeine, spicy food, wine, sugar. Sugar is a big culprit for causing hot flashes. So if you are, tracking your hot flashes and tracking the kinds of activities you engage in before you have a hot flash, and you're noticing you eat sugar and then you have a hot flash, cut out some of the sugar.
And I don't even want to go into sugar because
she hates sugar.
I hate sugar. I love sugar. I have a sweet tooth. My body loves sugar, but it is the enemy. It really is. And so paying attention to what you're consuming. So everyone thinks, okay, sugar, yeah, I'm not going to have that candy bar, or I'm not going to have, I don't know, a caramel frappuccino. But also pay attention to some other things. It was astonishing. So we've been having this conversation around nutrition because that's the thing that I love the most to talk about is nutrition. But so we looked at a muffin that got brought into the office. It was just a muffin, just a blueberry muffin, right?
Blueberries,
it's got fruit
healthy
in it, right? There were 32 grams of sugar in that one muffin. I literally just about.
And how much sugar should you eat in a day? Like gram-wise?
Gram-wise, it's really recommended at about no more than, I'm going to say as low as possible. Here's the caveat. There's different things that say different things about sugar. And some is like no more for women than 6 teaspoons, which ultimately comes out to about 20 grams. And then there's, discussions about really keeping things under about 4 to 5 grams. You'll hear people that talk about that. And some people that even talk about the 4 to 5 grams on a per meal, per consumption type basis.
Assuming you eat 3 to 5 meals a day.
Yeah.
So even if you went 5 grams of sugar 5 times a day, that's 25 grams of sugar. And you're still getting way more than just that one blueberry muffin, right?
Well, no, you're getting less at that point. So that one blueberry muffin was 32 grams of sugar.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
In that muffin is 32.
So even eating 5 grams of sugar in each, and it's hard. Sugar is in everything. Sugar is in everything.
You start reading labels in the grocery store and you basically come away with an empty cart. You got some vegetables and some protein in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in things that you didn't think it was in. And it's the number one ingredient in a lot of things you didn't think it was in. So being careful with that kind of stuff. But I could go on forever about that. I might do a grocery store videotaping of reading labels.
Oh, you absolutely should do that. That would be eye-opening, really educational.
It's something that I've done for a very long time is read labels, and I kind of have developed okay, I know that these, certain mainstream products are lower in sugar compared to others, or, a lot of times you can find different variants. One of my things is ketchup. There is so much sugar in ketchup.
Yes.
And kids love it.
Yeah.
No wonder they're addicted to sugar.
They
dip everything in sugar. Barbecue sauce is another one.
Yeah.
I mean, so your condiments are really bad. You got to pay attention to the condiments.
So what should we be eating then if we want to avoid hot flashes?
Your leafy greens are going to be a big one. Your dark leafy greens.
So kale,
spinach, those kinds of things, raw or cooked, honestly. You get certain things out of eating raw leafy greens, certain chemicals are released through the chewing process that help other things, even your endothelial cells, which are basically the cells that line your arteries. And when those are interrupted, then basically it allows plaque to build up. Lots of information here. But leafy greens, either form, cooked or raw, eat them. Your cruciferous vegetables are great. So your broccolis, your Brussels sprouts, those types of things.
Anything that crunches, does it have to be green to be a cruciferous vegetable? Is cauliflower?
Cauliflower is. And guess what? I learned today because I was very curious about eating the rainbow. It wasn't today. I learned it this week. I was very curious because you go to the store and I'm always trying to look for the rainbow. And guess what cauliflower comes in? It comes in purple and orange and white. So then I also have this thing with eating white versus purple. So if you look at cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable. Purple cabbage, you've got purple cabbage in there. And then you've got normal green cabbage. And I always go for purple cabbage because I understand that the dark purple color is because of the antioxidants in it. So I was curious about cauliflower, these colors of cauliflower. Is it fake? Is it real? Is it, are they adding it?
They're injecting
it with color. I don't know. So I wanted to know. I found out it is natural. It's an heirloom variety of cauliflower. So I was very excited about that. So it does actually affect your antioxidant levels, the darker color that you choose. So purple cauliflower, orange cauliflower, still a cruciferous vegetable. Definitely help you. And then your phytoestrogens. Your phytoestrogens are a big one. So the number one thing that most people think of when they think phytoestrogens or hear phytoestrogens is soy. And there's been a lot of discussions around soy. There's a lot of health information out there around soy. Some are misleading, in my opinion. Some are, there are some things to pay attention to. If you have had certain types of cancers and stuff like that, then, you do need to watch for soy, which is why, we always say consult your doctor, especially if you've had any form of cancer in the past, because if your doctor's telling you to stay away from soy products, you should stay away from phytoestrogens, most likely. So, but they also know the type of tumor. It all depends on the type of tumor. There are lots of types of tumors out there, unfortunately. Yeah. So, but phytoestrogens are a great one, and soy is a great form of phytoestrogens, and you can get that and through your natural diet. Things like tofu are great sources of soy.
Yeah, I love edamame.
Yes,
love it.
Yes, edamame is a great one. You've got soy milk. Again, soy milk is processed, so it's not the best, but it's better than other alternatives,
right? Like cow's milk, which if you read some of those labels has sugar in it. Yeah, when you told me to start paying attention to sugar, I flabbergasted.
Yeah. When you really start reading labels and you really start diving into nutrition and really start understanding nutrition, which the other part of that is the processing, and I talked about the processed soy milk, but we can go into a whole episode around processed foods.
And we probably will.
Yeah. Whole foods. Stick to your whole foods, but eat your vegetables. It's a big thing to help you get the nutrients that you need to avoid a hot flash. And when I say eat your vegetables, 75% of your plate should be vegetables. 75%. I know, it's crazy.
So if 75% of us ate 75% of our plate was vegetables, maybe only 5% of us would report hot flashes.
It's possible. It's possible. And here's the thing, is it's hard. We've grown up with, traditional ways that we've been raised to eat. We've got there's a bunch of conceptions around diet, or different opinions and different, things that people think they want to follow for different reasons. And there's just so much information out there. And, with that, I just totally had a brain fog moment.
Don't you love brain fog? We need to do an episode on brain fog and what causes that and how we can work through that. Yeah, because it's not fun when it happens.
I do remember.
Okay.
So yes, you can solve a lot of these things through diet, and hot flashes can be affected through your diet. So, staying away from spicy foods, staying away from your wines and your alcohols, your sugars, eating a lot more vegetables, all of that can help, but it's hard. It's hard. A lot of people have a hard time with it because it wasn't how they've been raised to eat. Here's the trick, ladies. If you change your microbiome, you will actually crave these foods. You will crave vegetables. You will crave these healthy foods. But it takes you changing your microbiome. Your microbiome is what signals to your brain the foods that you want. And based on what you feed your microbiome is what it craves. So if you're feeding it a lot of meat and dairies, a lot of unhealthy things, sugar, guess what it craves? It craves sugar because
more of that. Yeah. Because you propagated the bacteria that feeds off sugar and carbohydrates, whatever it is, And of course, it's just going to want more, so it can grow more.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other part of that is you're actually killing off your microbiome by eating those foods.
Right.
So it's not even just,
the other strains in
Right.
your microbiome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by eating all these vegetables and eating the rainbow, you're diversifying your microbiome, which then triggers your brain and says, I want more of that. And it's good. And now I know it's hard. So that's why we did a supplement, was because it's hard. That's why we did a fiber supplement to help feed the probiotic that we offer. And our probiotics contain phytoestrogens to help with that hot flash relief, and probiotics to help get your microbiome in order. So with that, though, we created our fiber supplement, which helps supplement all of those greens I'm telling you to eat. So that
because
it can
you're
help
supposed to eat like a pound of broccoli a day or some wacky thing like that, right? To get enough fiber.
Say a pound of vegetables a day. Because if you eat this broccoli every day, then your microbiome doesn't diversify.
Well, that's true. But when they say
she's correct.
You're supposed to get, I forget what the number, 20 to 25 grams of fiber.
20 to 25 grams
as a woman in this age range, to get the appropriate amount of fiber that your body needs.
Now, here's the thing. It can equal out to be a pound of broccoli. Okay. But it doesn't have to be. It's actually not that hard. And I actually give a lot of examples in the app about ways to accomplish 20 to 25 grams of fiber fairly easily throughout your day. It can be very easy if you're thinking about it, if you're conscious about it.
Well, I'd say if you don't want to have hot flashes,
right? You should be conscious of it, right? It doesn't take a lot of I gotta track, and because that's the thing I get stuck on. I cannot sit there and track my calories, and I just don't have time for it. I don't.
And how many grams of fiber you ate and all that. Yeah.
So I know that, I know I need to get in the 20 to 25 grams, and I give some great examples on how to meet that so you don't really have to think about it. You know that if you have that bowl of oatmeal in the morning, top it off with some dates and bananas, a drizzle of honey, you're great. You're there. And a great start for your day, and feeding your probiotic the right thing. So there is more to fiber than just the vegetables. There's some oats and different things that are really good for you. And I should do a video on fiber.
Yeah, you should.
I could go on for days about fiber. The different types of fiber. That might be a 3-video series. I love it.
So back to hot flashes.
Yes.
All right. So we've talked about what you should eat and what you should avoid. And we've talked a little bit about how your microbiome plays a role in that. We've talked about what you should wear and not wear. So I think these are some really good coping strategies, but I want to throw one more in. And it might seem a little counterintuitive, but it's exercise. When we exercise, you would think, oh, but I'm going to sweat and I'm going to tell my body that it's overheated because I'm moving and right? And my heart rate is up. And so isn't that going to cause a hot flash? Well, yes and no. Because you're engaged in an activity that your hypothalamus recognizes as keeping you cool in the long run, right? So if you work up a sweat, you're exercising and you're doing your thing, right? And you work up a sweat, your body cools itself off. Now, I'm not saying you've got to go out and run a triathlon and, buckets of sweat pouring down. But if you can get your heart rate up for 20 minutes and you can work up a little bit of a sweat, your body is going to recognize that as its own cooling off mechanism and not need to cause a hot flash in order to respond to these mixed signals that it gets from your skin and estrogen receptors. So just throwing that out there. Exercise is really critical, and it's critical for a lot of other things, but we're talking about hot flashes today, and that's what I want you to know for today.
I love it.
Well, I don't love hot flashes. And I don't love night sweats.
No.
And so, ladies, if you're experiencing hot flashes, night sweats, start thinking about what kinds of things might be causing your hypothalamus to get confused, and start really honing in on those things, trying to take preventative measures, because it really will make you feel better. It will make you feel more in control. And ultimately, your hot flashes will go away. They don't last forever. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We'll see you next time.